The movie opens in a pink room with a man named James sitting in a chair, looking deeply sad. He searches the kitchen for food, but the fridge is empty and there is no water running from the tap. James collapses to his knees in disappointment just when fog begins to fill the room. Moments later, a cheerful man named Buddy arrives with fried chicken and soda. He offers James the food, and the two eagerly begin eating together. James tells Buddy how he's always been there for him, and Buddy assures him he can always count on him. In the following scene, we see everything being recorded by a machine, and it turns out that it was all a dream, and James is actually sleeping. It's revealed that the movie is set in the year 2035, when people's dreams are recorded and the government has extended taxation to citizens' dreams. James is one of the dream auditors, whose job entails traveling around the United States to total up the tax expenditure. This means assigning a value to any meaningful content in dreams, such as hot air balloons, buffaloes, or dandelions, and charging accordingly. Afterward, James arrives at a drive-thru called Captain Kelly's Chicken and requests a chicken bucket. The speaker offers a bizarre chicken shake and even suggests upgrading the bucket for $1. James agrees to upgrade the bucket but refuses the chicken shake. However, after a moment's hesitation, he changes his mind and requests the shake as well. Later, we see James in the parking lot eating the food when suddenly he notices a strange man covered in green grass standing in front of his car. The man immediately vanishes, causing James to get scared and drive away. After driving for hours, James leaves the city and eventually arrives at Strawberry Mansion, a suburban house located in a remote area. He knocks on the door, and an old woman named Bella greets him, wearing colorful headgear with blinking wires on her head. James introduces himself as a tax auditor and explains that he's there to conduct an assessment, as she has no tax records. Bella warmly invites him in, but first asks him to lick an ice cream cone. James finds the request strange and initially refuses, but eventually ends up obliging. Next, Bella takes James inside, where he asks her a few questions about her life and occupation. He also notices that she has recorded all her dreams on VHS tapes. He asks why she hasn't updated the tapes to the new format, which was mandated 7 years ago, but Bella casually responds that she's old-fashioned and may have lost track of time. While Bella goes to make tea, James comes across a large room filled with many colorful VHS tapes and is shocked. He asks how many tapes she has, and Bella responds she has over 2,000. Realizing it's going to take days to audit, James asks her to recommend a nearby motel, but Bella suggests he stay here, in the room of her pet turtle, Sugar Baby. James refuses at first, but when the old woman continues to insist, he eventually agrees. Next, Bella leads James to his room and leaves him to do his work. He unpacks, and we notice a strange, bulky headgear device that he will use to view Bella's dreams. He plays one of her tapes, and the scene soon cuts to an open field. James appears there as a transparent blue hologram and notices a young Bella in the distance, playing with a caterpillar. An old man soon appears, and Bella runs to hug him as he turns out to be her father. They walk together and come across a wounded buffalo. Bella worries that the buffalo will die, but her father assures her that nothing ever truly dies. In the real world, James removes the helmet and writes down notes about what he saw. He is shocked to find a dandelion in his mouth, the same one that was present in the dream. Later, he reviews another tape where a young Bella is playing a violin in a graveyard. Moments later, the skeleton of her late husband rises from the grave, begins playing the saxophone, and starts dancing. James is shocked to see Bella meeting the Grassman, the same figure he saw earlier in real life. James soon returns to the real world, and as he removes the helmet, he sees Bella sitting on the bed, watching him. She explains that she was just watching him work and noticed he was smiling. However, James grows annoyed and tells her he prefers to work in private. The old woman apologizes and offers him dinner before finally leaving the room. Later, James is trying to watch TV when he notices a fly trapped in a spider web. The fly begins talking and tells James he doesn't have much time and that he's in danger. The fly asks James to dream of it, but the man thinks it's just a hallucination and leaves the room. Later that night, James dreams of being back in the pink room, where he sees the same fly trapped in a spider web. web. He tries to sweep away the webs using a broom, but to no avail. Suddenly, Buddy appears and hands him a spider repellent product to kill the spiders. Just then, there's a knock at the door, and James wants to see who it is, but Buddy stops him and goes to the door himself. Outside, a woman is desperately asking to see James, but Buddy refuses to let her in. He shuts the door on her and tells James it was just a chicken delivery from Kelly's Chicken. In the next scene, we see James watching another of Bella's dreams, where her younger self is alone at a quiet French restaurant at night. A waiter with a frog's head appears to take her order, and they chat friendly. James, in his holographic form, sits in front of her and watches closely. He notices chicken on almost every table, but he can't see the bucket, which is static. In the real world, James and older Bella are having dinner when he suddenly begins hallucinating and feeling strange. He says he'll go to his room, but Bella urges him to stay and drink more wine. At that moment, he catches a glimpse of young Bella, who urgently tells him she needs to see him. James worries he's losing his mind and asks older Bella about the bucket of chicken in her dream, which he couldn't see. She reveals it was probably because the bucket wasn't supposed to be there. She then asks if he believes that people's dreams are private and that nothing should be transmitted without their consent. James agrees, after which Bella heads to her room and soon returns with the headgear covered in colorful wires. She reveals that she and her husband developed it together, and when they wear it, the ads disappear. James doesn't understand, so Bella explains how several ad agencies transmit ads into people's dreams without their knowledge because it brings them money. James doesn't believe her, but she states he should have known since he watches everyone's dreams. She then gives the headgear to James to try it for himself. That night, James puts on the headgear and goes to bed, where he begins having strange dreams. At one point, he's in the pink room trying to squeeze toothpaste from a tube, but it's empty. Just then, there's a knock at the door, and it turns out to be Buddy. Buddy shows him a tube of toothpaste, claiming it's supposed to last all day and keep him fresh. James mentions what Bella said, but Buddy warns him not to believe her, insisting she's crazy. At this moment, there is another knock on the door, and James opens it against Buddy's warning. Then, all of a sudden, a fog appears, and young Bella walks into the room. She and James exchange smiles, and the pink walls suddenly vanish. James finds himself in an open, grassy field where he notices dozens of people wearing tape. In the real world, he wakes up and leaves his room to see a person covered in tape, who soon disappears. James then goes to find Bella and asks what he's supposed to do with the headgear, but she calmly responds that it's up to him. He asks why she brought him here, and Bella responds she wanted someone to share her dreams with. She then hands him a special VHS tape and reveals that they are connected in more ways than he knows. The next morning, James wakes up wearing the headgear and goes downstairs to find Bella, but he is shocked to see her lying unresponsive on a chair and already dead. He immediately informs the authorities, and not long after, paramedics arrive and take her body away. A sad James then tends to mundane tasks around the mansion to cope. He calls several people, feeds the chickens, and even takes care of Sugar Baby. He then quietly packs his belongings, including Bella's special tape. Finally, James places the headgear on Bella's bed and prepares to leave the house. In a flashback, we see James and Bella having lunch when she reveals how she has a son named Peter, but they don't get along. It is because her first husband was an evil man, and Peter took after his dad. James asks how her second husband was, and Bella responds that he was a dream and that they had a wonderful life together. In the present, James hears the doorbell ringing, and when he opens it, he finds an unfamiliar man standing there. The man introduces himself as Bella's son, Peter, and walks inside without hesitation. He shows no sadness over his mother's death, saying it was about time Bella passed away. Peter tries to convince James that his mom was a crazy woman and warns him not to believe anything she said. James grows nervous, so Peter invites him to stay for dinner, mentioning that his wife and son will be arriving soon. Afterward, James plays the special VHS given to him by Bella and is transported into a grassy field. He then notices shows young Bella and the Grassman spending time together, as they seem to be lovers. Before Peter can figure out who the Grassman is, Peter interrupts him and summons him for dinner. At the dinner table, James meets Peter's wife, Martha, and son, Brian, both of whom seem rude. Peter then sends his wife and son to go through his mom's belongings. Once they're alone, Peter asks James about Bella's dreams and if he has found anything interesting. He also asks what the protocol is in such situations and if James's work here is completed. James claims he has to report this to his superiors and that the audit still needs to be finished. Feeling increasingly disturbed, James heads to the music room, where he notices Martha and Brian destroying all the tapes. He furiously tells them they've just committed a federal crime and that he's going to report it to his superiors. After this, James hurries to his room, where he resumes watching Bella's tape and sees her hugging the Grassman. Young Bella removes the grass from his face, and James is shocked to see that the Grassman is none other than himself. But before he can see more, Peter sneaks up behind him and knocks him out cold with a bat. As Peter drags James's body, James begins to have vivid and strange dreams. He sees himself bleeding from the head and stumbles outside, where Peter is wearing a wolf's head. A terrified James runs and spots Martha downstairs, looking like a witch. Brian has also lost his mind, and the three of them close in to attack. James rushes upstairs, where young Bella grabs him and pulls him into a closet. As the lunatics close in, Bella urges James to close his eyes and swim. The scene suddenly shifts to a sea, where young Bella and James swim together, finally reaching a sunlit beach. They exchange joyful smiles, after which a dreamlike montage shows them eating bananas and coconuts while living peacefully and contentedly on the island. The two appear truly happy, spending their days dancing, laughing, and slowly falling in love. However, one day, while they are spending time together, James's head suddenly starts bleeding, and a hologram of Buddy briefly appears with an ad for an antiseptic product. Bella frantically tells James he needs to leave because they're trying to kill him, as he knows about the ads. She reveals that her son, Peter, is the CEO of a huge advertising agency, and he isn't happy about her headgear. Bella urges James to leave immediately, but he gets distracted when several versions of Buddy appear, each trying to sell him different products. In the real world, we see James slowly gaining consciousness while Peter is dragging him to bed. Peter thus knocks him out again with the bat. The scene cuts to the dream world, where James wakes up on a ship crewed by two human-sized pirate rats. Peter asks them about Bella, but they claim to have no idea. As time passes, Peter becomes the new captain of the ship, with the rats as his crew. He desperately searches for Bella, but can't find her, and 7 years pass this way. The rats begin to think the whole mission is pointless, but James still holds faith that she's out there somewhere. Back in the real world, Peter decides to set the house on fire and kill the unconscious James before his family leaves. Meanwhile, in James's dreams, he and his rats face an unexpected threat when they encounter a giant blue demon, which is a huge humanoid creature wearing a skull-shaped blue mask with horns. James and his team try to fight the demon, but he overpowers them and even tries to toss their ship. That evening, James joins the blue demon for dinner, and to his surprise, Bella appears, revealing herself as the demon's enslaved puppet. She has been chained by a collar to a pillar behind the demon, her spirit appearing to be broken. As they sit down to eat, James and Bella exchange a glance, but pretend not to recognize each other. After dinner, the demon quietly drifts off to sleep, giving James the chance to steal his keys. He quickly frees Bella, and together they slip away without waking the demon. They jump into the sea and finally reach the shore after a while. They spend some time together having fun, but Bella grows worried and tells James he must leave. She reveals that the house is burning in the real world, and that he will die if he doesn't wake up. James says he wants to stay here forever, but Bella warns him he won't be here once he dies. The next day, Bella transforms James into a giant caterpillar, after which he begins swimming across the ocean. He then makes his way through a desert and crawls for decades. A massive snowstorm arrives that lasts for centuries, and one day, James finally returns to his real body. After an endless journey, he comes across the pink house in the middle of nowhere. He heads inside, only to find Buddy waiting for him. Buddy is furious that James betrayed him after everything he did, and scolds him for being ungrateful. Meanwhile, in the real world, the house begins to burn rapidly, while in the dream, the pink house starts moving as all the objects inside begin collapsing down on James from above. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, Bella finally appears and reaches out to the unconscious James. She places the colorful headgear on his head and manages to wake him up. At this moment, Buddy begins to turn into a hologram and eventually disappears. After this, James and Bella leave the pink room and are greeted by a large send-off party. This includes all of Bella's dream characters, like the frog waiter, pirate rats, and even the blue demon. Peter also unexpectedly shows up and apologizes to his mother for everything. Bella seems happy, but James suspects something fishy is going on. Following this, Bella grabs James's hand, and a beam of light slowly lifts them off the ground. It seems like everything is going to be okay for the two when suddenly James notices Peter's head turning into a wolf. Before he can figure out what's happening, he and Bella are separated and transformed into golden balls of fire, drifting apart. Their bodies begin to disintegrate, and Bella urges him to fight it and wake up before it's too late. James says he's melting, so Bella tells him to land on the ice cream cone. The disintegrating James then falls into the same ice cream that older Bella had offered him to lick when he first arrived at the house. At this moment, James finally wakes up in the real world and notices the house on fire. He immediately heads outside and manages to save himself. But moments later, he again risks his life and heads inside and grabs Bella's tape, her headgear, and her beloved turtle, Sugar Baby. Once outside, James mournfully watches as the Strawberry Mansion burns away in front of him. Days later, we see James in the city and watching the tape Bella had given him. It shows young Bella standing at a grave beside the grass man. The two go on a dreamy date, and Bella eventually brushes the grass off his body, revealing none other than James underneath. The movie concludes with the two of them walking hand in hand towards Strawberry Mansion.